Welcome. We are going to talk about how to help our kids learn how to self-score their own writing so that they can score their work and then set their goals. So please turn to chapter 9 in your book and then turn ahead to the teaching guide for routine 7, which is called Reflect and Set Goals. And again, this is about how to teach kids to self-reflect on their own writing and then use those reflections to set their goals so that they can move themselves forward as writers. There are 4 steps in this lesson. The first step is you want to have kids set purpose, and you want to set the purpose for why scoring is important. So you want to talk to your kids about how scoring lets them know how to improve and set their goals, and it can build growth mindset that I can get better at writing as I score multiple pieces and see myself improving. Then 1B, you want to have your kids write some self-talk on their scales so that they set their own purpose. For example, they might write, scoring lets me set my goals so that I know how to make my writing better. That's step 1. Step 2 is you prepare to score an exemplar by having kids look at the scale, color code the scale and color code an exemplar, and then you explain the criteria for getting each point. Then you have kids color code and score an exemplar so that they see what strong writing looks like. After that, you have them score a weaker piece of writing. We call this first draft writing because it often looks like what they do. We don't want them to feel that they haven't done a good job or that their writing is bad. So instead, we just tell them this is first draft writing. So those are the 4 steps. So I'm going to model these for you now. The way that I would begin is by showing my kids a scale and then showing them an exemplar from a grade 3 student. And as I said, the first thing I would do is color code my scale with my kids. So I would remind them that topic introduction is what color? It's green. And then important evidence, that's your information from the text, that's always yellow. So we make those yellow. And I just color code like this so that my kids can see the connection between the scale and their actual writing. Then the next part is detailed examination. And detailed examination, we make orange. So I have my kids go through and make all their detailed examination this color. And then finally we have our ending, our last part of tide. And the ending would be pink or red, the colors of the traffic light. Okay, then after they've color coded their scale, then I have them look over at a piece of writing that's considered strong, and I have them color code that. Now, you would have already color coded this with your kids in an earlier lesson, so I'm going to move through this pretty quickly, but I would have these conversations with my kids. So the topic introduction is green, all of my facts are yellow, and where I explain my facts and what they mean, or just give an elaboration on that fact, that same fact, that would be orange. So worker ants dig nests with their jaws and use saliva to make solid walls. That's pretty solid. That's a nice piece of evidence. And then their elaboration explains why that job is important. Next, scout ants make a scent trail where they locate food so that others can find it. That's my fact. And then this way, others can help carry it back, and then they store it for what they, so that they can use it later. And that might be a mixed sentence. I'd have to check back, but I do think that there's something in the text that talks about others helping them to carry it back. So that second sentence can be a mix of more fact and inferencing. Finally, soldier ants have enormous heads. These ants protect the nest because they block the entrance and tunnels. That was all a fact. And then they fight predators who try to enter. This predators, I believe, was in the text, that word, but I don't think that they said who tried to enter. That may have been. And either way, it's an additional fact. So we would give that credit as they've built out their eye. In the upper grades, that additional piece should really be an inference, but in 3rd grade, that's kind of the bridge grade where even if they're just bolstering their facts with additional information, that still counts as an orange. Now, how do we know when to give that yellow full credit? And how do we know what a really strong topic introduction is? So I would encourage you to look at your state for guidance on this. In our state, we use something called MCAS, MCAS. And this is the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System. And I go to this site in order to see what are they posting as exemplary from students. And then I kind of use that as my guide. So I might pull up the latest grade 3 writing at this site and look at what is my state telling me is pretty strong writing for grade 3. So here's an example of a grade 3 piece that was posted by my state. And you can see in this piece, they're responding to the question of describe how the author uses text features to convey their message. So this response is really specific. The author uses text features such as subtitles, diagrams, maps, and they go on and on. So that's a really nice opening. And then everything that they list in that opening, they then talk about the subtitles, the diagram. You can see that this piece is about 8 to 10 sentences. Each section has maybe 2 to 3. They have a one sentence conclusion. That's fine. I know that sometimes we want to see a more robust opening or closing. These are both just one sentence. Our state is posting that as really what's within reach for a strong piece of writing in third grade. So I just reference that in order to see, what are we reaching for? What do we think a strong student can do? And I think this looks pretty close. Those examples were about a sentence or two each. Could have had a few third sentences. I think this one did have 3, but I think these are pretty on par with what my state is looking for. So you do want to anchor to something. You want to anchor to a vision of what strong writing can look like. All right, so now how would we score this? Did we introduce the topic in an engaging and clear way? Definitely it's clear. I'm not sure I would give it full credit for engaging. They could have featured something that was interesting about the jobs. They did talk about helping the entire colony survive, but that's all pretty much just regurgitating the prompt, which is fine, but it's not that engaging. Focus topic statement, definitely, they have that. Information from the text. So to get these points, your topic needs to be stated and well set up. So in the first I, they're talking about worker ants and how they dig nests with their jaws and use the saliva. So it's definitely well set up because they're telling you they're talking about worker ants. And then the fact is pretty solid that they use the saliva to make the solid walls. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I would give that full credit. And now for the examination, definitely that is a great inference. They're talking about how they can then build a strong home where everybody is safe. So I would give that the 2 full credits. Next one, again, they set it up well. They tell me they're going to talk about scout ants. They talk about the scent trail. They've even got an extra part of the next sentence. So that's wonderful. So that would be about a 2. And then they're thinking about how they're going to need the food later. That's short, but it's a really good insight. I would give that full credit. Finally, the soldier ants, how they protect the nest because they've got a big head and they fight the predators. That's definitely good. And these predators try to enter. I might give that a 1 because I don't think that they're thinking as deeply or making as surprising a connection there. Then the ending, they're definitely wrapping it up. These are the important jobs that these tiny insects do. There's a little bit of flair in there, and they are now commenting on how they're important jobs. To stretch it, you might write something like these ants all work together as a community. That might get a full 2, but this is reaching, so I might give it a 1.5. Links, you don't see first, next, last. You do see first, next, and then finally. So there are some of these transition words. They've mixed it up a little bit. They don't have last, they've used finally. But they're also linking by naming the kind of job, the worker ant, the scout ant. So this is really solidly linked. Chooses words and phrases for effect. You want to look for about 10%, so about 1 per sentence. And I think they've pretty much got that. Varied sentences, definitely. I'm seeing some conjunctions here, when and since. So those are pretty great conjunctions for this age. And then finally, conventions, that's great. Yes, I would give the conventions full point. So this piece would get full credit. Now let's look at a below sample. Here we have soldier ants have enormous heads. There is also a scout ant. Scout ants look for food and bring it back. The worker ants dig tunnels and build a pile of dirt. They use their jaws to dig. Now, in your revision lesson, you might have mapped this out to TIDE and realized, oops, there's no topic sentence. So they're not going to get their topic sentences, but they are going to get an O for Olay. We never give a 0. We either give O for Olay or we give not yet. You can also write it NY. I'm not there yet, but I'm going to get there. So it's not engaging, and we're going to give the Olay because I know next time I work, I want to add a topic sentence. You can use either. Kids have their own preferences. All right, so for the first one, soldier ants have enormous heads. That is a fact, that is true, but it's pretty bare bone and it's not well set up. Well, actually, they do say soldier ants, so we could give them some credit for being well set up, but it's pretty shabby. Their examination, nope, that's an Olay. There's no examination there. The next fact, there's a scout ant. That's well set up. Scout ants look for food and bring it back. Okay, that's barely there. I'd give it a 1.5. It could have been a little stronger, but it's definitely better. No examination. And then the worker ants dig tunnels and build a pile of dirt. They use their jaws to dig. So they're naming it, they're setting it up well. They're almost there. It's like a 1.75. But whenever you're on the fence, score low. Always go down if you're not sure, because remember, they're going to use this to set their goals. So you want them to be able to reach. Okay, next, examination. That was the one that we thought was pretty weak, so I'd give it a 0.5, possibly a 1, but maybe a 0.5. Then next, we have the ending. And the ending here does not exist. That's an Olay. Linking words, no. There don't seem to be any linkings, so that's another Olay. Language, did they choose words for effect? They do have tunnels. I'm inclined to give a 0.5 just because they tried. You could argue that that's not enough. Varied sentences, I don't see any conjunctions. I just see an and, but that's pretty weak. I would give that an O for Olay. And I'm just going to go back up here because I would want to know the class criteria before I decided on whether I would give that full credit or not. And I'm also just going to label this. This is our draft. This is the below sample. Conventions, we're not missing any periods or capitals, and I don't see any spelling, so we can give them that. Okay, so this is how we would score these two grade 3 samples.